I bet you most of you Uber and Lyft drivers out there can definitely relate to this dilemma. In the sense that you are in the car, you're just starting out. You are either an Android or you are an Apple. It doesn't matter which one you are. That actually really is even besides the point. You pick up a passenger and they want the phone to be charged. And you say, "Oh, I've got an Apple or I've got an Android. Like, you don't have the other one?" And it's like, "No." And then they give you like a low star rating because you don't have that charging device. So most of the time, because they're for the most part fairly cheap, you buy a new charger. Unfortunately, if you're an Android user, you go to buy an Apple charger, they're proprietary. So you need to spend more money on a wire that you would normally spend just a couple dollars on if it was your own Android. And even Android has multiple different chargers and plugs in. There's the UBC and the micro. It just gets to be a headache. And there's rarely any reason for them to be different. I mean, sometimes they offer like an improved change, true. But then you get to like Apple, and Apple's just got to be this whiny little, because they want their design to be their design, and they can't play nice with everyone. Well, the EU has actually mandated, they voted and they passed that all phones and devices have to have a universal charger. And what does this mean for everyone? Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here and happen to really like this video, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification. We upload videos on a near daily basis. We do news, rants, commentary, interviews, premieres, live streams, and you will want to be notified when all those go up. So anyway, I'm at Apple Insider right now, and obviously Apple Insider is going to be on the side of Apple. That's fine. I wanted to use this one just because I also think the way Apple users look at this stuff is fascinating. Like, Apple's doing you a favor by being so closed and, anti-competitive. Like, they don't want to work well. They don't want you to have convenience. Like, they say, "Oh no, our design is convenient." It's like, no, it's not convenient because the whole world doesn't use it. Only Apple people. And granted, there's a lot of Apple people out there, so that's a lot of people. I'm not gonna say it's not. But here's the thing. Apple was the one that clearly fought the most on this one. But the European Union is pressing ahead with plans to make all manufacturers the same chargers, at least in the EU. So let's look at this. When the European Parliament voted on Thursday to establish a common charging standard for mobile devices, it represented just the latest in a decade-long effort. As clear-cut as the 582 people voted yes for this, 40% voted no. It was the start of this latest step, and it will only affect Europe. So here's what they were aiming for. At the heart of the European Commission's plans are a desire to improve convenience for consumers and radically cut what it sees as the considerable electronic waste from the disposal of the discarded chargers. According to its 225-page impact assessment study of common chargers of portable devices document, 15 to 20% of people surveyed report having faced significant issues because of non-standard chargers. These included times when available chargers were incompatible or when charging fast, not fast enough, or not as fast with some devices and chargers as with others. It also included how respondents said that they had many such chargers that were taking up space. So how do we get here? The current pressure to create a standard comes after a 2009 memorandum of understanding, which was signed by many vendors, including Apple, Samsung, and Nokia. The signatories agreed to develop a common specification based on the USB 2.0 Micro B interface, which would allow full charging compatibility with mobile phones to be placed on the market, recounts the impact document. For those phones that did not have a USB Micro B interface, an adapter was allowed under the terms of the MAO, as they called it. The 2009 MAO expired in 2014, and while the smartphone industry proposed a new equivalent in 2018, the European Commission rejected that because by then USB-C was becoming more prevalent. So basically, these companies wanted to, always be in control. Like every few years, they would pass like a new standard. But the whole idea is to keep the chargers, not to just get rid of them. Like that creates waste, it creates clutter, and so they rejected it. And the significant point about the 2019 common specification, though, was that is the wording about adapters. According to the EC, a survey done in 2014 showed overwhelming success with 99% of all smartphones being compliant, but only because Apple was counted since it provided an adapter. You may never have seen or known of it, but there was a lighting to USB 2.0 micro B adapter, which Apple introduced in 2012 specifically to comply with the agreement. The adapter was first introduced alongside the iPhone 5. Now, mixed results. The 2009 MOU was a success only if you count the ability of vendors to continue with proprietary cables, so long as they also made it possible to buy adapters. In a separate part of the impact document, then EC says that in fact the MOU was a failure. The intention had been to cut down the number of chargers needed to decouple devices so that phones no longer always had to come with their own charger. Quote, the ineffectiveness of the first MOU raised serious doubts that decoupling would follow automatically from the standardization of chargers, especially connectors alone. Now, this is where Apple comes in. Ahead of the vote, Apple wrote to the European Commission arguing that requiring it to move away from its lighting connector would actually introduce an unprecedented volume of e-waste during the transition to a new standard. Quote, we believe regulation that forces conformity across the type of connector built into all smartphone stifles innovation rather than encouraging it and would harm consumers in Europe and the economy as a whole. We hope the Commission will continue to seek a solution that does not restrict the industry's ability to innovate and bring exciting new technology to consumers. Now, this is a good point, by the way. I'll give them this much credit. This is a good point. They don't just update chargers for no reason. Well, sometimes they do, but not always. But here's the thing. The micro adapter, for example, is less efficient than the USB-C adapter. And the old iPhone charger, I forgot what it was called, is less. It's actually plugged in over there, so I can't grab it. But that was less effective and more cumbersome than this thing. So adapters do change over time. I acknowledge that. The problem is, though, cell phones, everything needs a charger now. Every device needs a charger, and you get millions, if not billions, of these wires, which is resources, metals, rubber, everything. And they usually wind up in the dump when they are no longer necessary or clutter. And so the EU wanted to remove this obstacle. They wanted to remove this problem because it's like, hey, this one works fine. Why don't we just continue to use it? In fact, actually, I think... Yeah, no, that's something different. Sorry. I've actually got, to kind of highlight how bad it is, I have got a ton of wires and stuff here, some of which I can't use anymore, so I kind of sympathize with this. But once you, say this is the standard, and let's say you want to make a phone, you need the charger to be more powerful or do something different, you can't do that anymore because you have a standard you have to keep, and it could stifle some innovation. Now, here's the impact. The new European vote to standardize chargers is far from a straightforward decision to adopt any one standard and enforce it. The European Commission's report specifically states that, quote, there is no clear-cut optimal solution. The report offers multiple possible options from allowing proprietary chargers with adapters to mandating USB-C and several variations between. Those variations chiefly concern the standardization not only of cables and connectors, but rather of the chargers themselves. Most phones use power cables, the plug into what the EC refers to as an external power supply or EPS. Quote, the most effective approach to addressing the consumer inconvenience that results from the continued existence of different charging solutions would be to pursue common connectors in combination with an interoperable EPS. So here's all the, and we're not going to go over every single one of these, but these are the different types of chargers, and I love how, because our plugs don't look like this at all. But these are all the things that they can do to be universal. And one of the options is Apple would have to provide a USB power plug, but the iPhone itself could continue using the Lightning connector. So we don't know exactly what what Apple's going to be forced to do. I doubt Apple would want to make a phone that looks like this. They want to keep. I had it just for a minute. They want to keep this as long as they can, at least until they want to introduce a new adapter. And I have to say, I'm perfectly okay with this for the most part. Most of the time when Apple changes their adapter or their charger or their plug or whatever they want to do, it doesn't have anything to do with innovation. It doesn't have anything to do because that plug is inherently better than what is already out there or what they were using previously. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they can make their plug better. It has everything to do or the fact that they want to make money and they want to control you from doing it. In fact, here's the other thing about iPhones I should mention. iPhones have a proprietary screw. I don't know if you know this, but when you like crack like an iPhone or something, replacing a screen is ridiculously easy. You open the phone, you pop out the old screen, you put a new one on, you re-screw it. It's not difficult at all. And yet no one can ever do this because Apple has patented the screws that are on the iPhone. And you need a special screwdriver to screw them open. Now, some companies have managed to get their hands on these screws, usually on the black market, because they get stolen all the time from employees, and employees sell them on eBay, things like that. And so then they can fix an iPhone for you. But here's the thing. Apple is constantly changing these screws. They are. Because they don't want you fixing your own phone. They don't even want you tinkering with it. They want you to bring it to them where they can do one of two things. Either they can charge you a $200 fee to swap out a battery that usually you yourself could swap out yourself, or they'll sell you a new phone. They'll convince you, hey, it's just not working, so why don't you trade this into us? We'll give you like an $80 or $100 credit, and you can get a new phone. So that's what they want to do. And that they why would it surprise people? Like, would it honestly surprise you if it's like, well, why don't you use the USB-C adapter or the micro adapter? I mean, my Galaxy uses the micro adapter, and it charges the phone in an hour. It's extremely convenient. It's extremely fast. Apple won't do it because, hey, they want to sell you their wire. And granted, at some point, people figure out how to make duplicates of the wire. But for a little while, at the very least, you can only get that charger from Apple. And Apple will charge a premium. Apple's main objections to this isn't that it's going to stifle innovation, although I agree it might. It might stifle a little bit of innovation. It's unavoidable. But it's because they can no longer have a proprietary part that they can now sell you for a lot of money. That's what they want. Like, they just want you to keep buying from them. And if they have to make a universal charger, or if they have to provide like the adapter or something, then guess what? People don't buy their parts. They don't. So that's what this is about. And it's going to be very curious to see what happens. I would personally love it if there was just one universal charging station. I bet a lot of other Uber drivers love that too. So that, you know, you can just like have that one and just hand it to that passenger and say, here you go, charge your phone. You know, I'm sure they just love it. But we'll have to see what happens. Right now, this is only in the European Union. I don't even think there's any plans to bring it to America, Canada, France, anything like that. Wait, no, France is part of the European Union. Sorry. Mexico. A little bit of a flub there, sorry. But anyway, yeah, this is not coming to America anytime soon. So anyway, that's where we're going to leave this story, though. What do you folks think, though? Would you like a universal standard for charging? Do you think that the EU is right to do this, or do you agree with Apple that this is going to stifle innovation? Do you like buying that unique charger? I would love to know. So comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.